Bonjour tous les spectateurs et bien sûr toutes les spectatrices aussi. So in this video I'll be covering the passive voice in French, a fairly simple concept that a lot of people seem to overcomplicate. So I'll be going through it step by step in the hopes of clearing it up for those of you who are slightly confused by it. So the active voice is the voice we use most often, in which one person, the subject, does an action to another person, the object. For example, in "The boy opens the door", the boy is the subject, because he is doing the action. He is opening the door. The door is the object, because it receives the consequence of the action. It is being opened. In the passive voice, though, the subject and the object are switched around. The door is opened by the boy. The door is now the subject and the main focus of the sentence, whereas the boy is now the agent, somewhat of an afterthought, and doesn't even have to appear in the sentence for it to make sense. "The door is opened" would be perfectly acceptable. So how do we construct the passive in French? The basic template is as follows. First comes the object of the active sentence, then a conjugated form of être, then the past participle of the action, and if we really want to, we can put the agent on the end. So, our active sentence in French is "Le garçon ouvre la porte". Let's make it passive. First of all, like we said before, we need the object of the active sentence. In this case, it's the door, la porte. So that comes first. Then comes être. Our sentence is in the present tense, so we conjugate être in the present. Since the subject is now the door, être needs to be in the third person singular form, est. Next comes the past participle of the action. Our verb is ouvrir, and the past participle of that is ouvert. Now the agent, or the by bit. The boy was doing the action, so the sentence in English ends by the boy. In French, this is par le garçon. La porte est ouverte par le garçon. Simple. But there's one thing missing. Remember when we use être, like in the perfect tenses, the past participle has to agree with the subject. Now this normally only applies to a handful of verbs, but since the passive always uses être no matter what tense, the past participle has to agree. That is, add an s for masculine plural, an e for feminine singular, and es for feminine plural. Since la porte is feminine singular, our past participle ouvert becomes ouverte in the passive. La porte est ouverte par le garçon. Here's the same sentence in some other tenses. La porte sera ouverte par le garçon. The door will be opened by the boy. La porte a été ouverte par le garçon. The door was opened by the boy. La porte serait ouverte par le garçon. The door would be opened by the boy. As you can tell, the only thing changing here is the conjugation of être, and this is the most important part of the passive, so make sure you're familiar with it. So that's it for this portion of the passive voice, but in the next video I'll cover the one problem that the passive faces in French. Until then, à bientôt.